Magnus Carlsen makes his way to the playing hall here along with his teammates from the Alpine SG Pipers. Magnus, Pragnananda, Richard Rapport, Hoi Fan, what a team, and their opponents, Triveni Continental Kings, Alireza Firouzja on the top board, Wei Rajabov, an amazing team. This is inside the Friends House in London, the second edition of the Tech Mahindra Global Chess League. Carlsen and Firouzja shake hands, and this is going to be an amazing encounter on the top board. They have had their fantastic battles online. Magnus has got slightly the upper hand over Firouzja of late, but both of them have immense respect for each other. Magnus, as always, adjusts his pieces. Alireza is ready for the battle. The time control is 20 minutes plus no increment here, so it's straight finish. The arbiter comes in and signals the players to start the game. A shake of hands, and Magnus opens with d4. Alireza, deciding what his first move should be, responds back with d5. And here we have the Queen's Gambit declined with e6. Magnus can go for his favorite opening, which is the Catalan, with the move g3 next. But he decides to first develop his knight to c3. And Firouzja now goes c6, converting the game into semi-Slav territory. And Magnus goes g3. Not the most popular way to play here, because you do give up your c4 pawn. But Magnus like, I'm fine with it. He puts his bishop on g2 and is playing this gambit line, knight bd7 and a4 played in order to stop the move b5. Alireza puts his bishop on e7. He can go directly to b4 as well, but he first puts it on e7, castles. Black also castles here. And now, how should Magnus continue? He can go e4, grabbing the center, but he decides to play on the queen side. He goes a5. Maybe a6 is on the cards with the bishop looking here. Firouzja puts his knight into the center of the board, and Magnus plays h4. The game is getting very exciting. Magnus pushing his rook pawns. Now the a5 pawn is attacked, so is the knight on c3, and Magnus plays bishop g5. He wants to provoke f6 and then drop back his bishop. That's his plan here. So bishop g5, and he's gone knight f6. Magnus plays his queen to c2, defending the knight on c3, giving up another pawn on a5. Is Firouzja going to take it? The game has sharpened immensely. We are just on move 12 and Magnus is already 2 pawns down. But now e4, attacking the knight, threatening e5. There's a pin here. There's a bishop hanging. Firouzja needs to be very careful. Bishop takes on c3 first. And Magnus now takes back. The knight comes back, breaking the pin so that if e5 you can jump here when black is fine. But Magnus goes knight e5, fantastic move, attacking this pawn on c4. And Alireza plays b5. Now a very good tactical sequence could be take takes and e5, unleashing the bishop here. But Magnus is not interested in getting back the material. He goes queen c1, Alireza goes king h8. And now the queen moves in. There's pressure here, and black has to remain very careful not to lose this. He goes knight g8. That's what Alireza is good at, defense. But now the c6 pawn is hanging. He takes it. The only issue here is that now black is unraveling a bit. The bishop will come out here. The rooks will get connected. Magnus brings his queen in, attacking here. But bishop b7, and it's a good move. Magnus pushes his pawn to e5, defending the knight. Bishop takes knight. And you have to take this back. He takes with the bishop. Now the knight is hanging, the rook is hanging. And he plays his rook to d8. The queen is attacked here. And the queen moves back. He takes, pawn takes. And Firouzja pushes his pawn to h6, questioning the bishop. Magnus brings his bishop back, maybe so that he can put it later here, and it's not attacked by the knight. And Firouzja puts his knight into the center of the board, takes here, takes on c3, he takes, rook comes in, and this is a mistake. The best move was knight e7, but he moves in, and Magnus finds the best move, bishop a6. This is a great move. Now the c pawn is very strong with the bishop coming out here. So Firouzja brings back his knight, Magnus pushes his pawn forward, knight e7 attacking this pawn, but the bishops are just too powerful in this open board. You can see them, bishop here controlling the queening square. Firouzja plays his rook to e8, and now Magnus brings his rook to c1. He wants to push it forward, and Firouzja comes back. He blockades, but guys, this is not good enough. Bishop here, bishop comes in. He brings his bishop back to f1, even stronger. Maybe the bishop will be powerful on this diagonal. Knight comes to the center, and now bishop c5 attacking the a7 pawn. Magnus is completely winning here. Firouzja in big trouble. Right out of the opening, Magnus took the fight to his opponent. Rook takes on a7, and now this one is not going to be easy to defend. He plays his rook to c8. Magnus brings his bishop into the position, and f5 played. Well, you can just leave it as it is, but Magnus decides to do en passant, gf6, and now just the bishop here. The knights are actually both stuck to each other. He brings his bishop out here, but misses this move of Firouzja, and I think the bishop was important to stop that. Although Magnus does keep an advantage still, he might lose one of his bishops here. Knight b6, you can see Magnus slightly unhappy there. Bishop f4 found by him attacking this rook, but now the position simplifies a bit. A check comes in, and the knight takes the pawn. So the very dangerous passer is lost, but white is clearly better still. Has the bishop pair, extra pawn, but now the play is all on one side because of these pawns. Knight e6, and he brings his bishop back to f1. This is so difficult for Alireza, especially because he has 2 minutes 2 seconds on the clock. Magnus has 2 minutes 35 seconds, and now the knights are attacked, so they both have to be kept in touch with each other. And now bishop a6 when none of the knights can move, but he plays bishop g2, and I think he misses this point that now the knight attacks the bishop and comes here. So some inaccurate play there by Magnus, giving his opponent some chances. Bishop c1, the bishop drops back attacking the knight. The knights are now a little bit pesky under time pressure, and imagine that you have no increment and the knights are forking. It's not easy. Magnus has 2 minutes on the clock. Alireza has 1 minute 18 seconds. He's moving rapidly. The bishop comes up. He brings his knight back, and f4 is played attacking the knight. Goes behind. King comes up. This is definitely going to lead to some kind of flagging, but Magnus has 1 minute 50 seconds. Alireza has 1 minute 11 seconds. Clearly everything going in Magnus's favor right now. The time, the position, but he's so tensed about the knights. There are so many knight forks lurking around. For example, you move the bishop, a check will come from here. So Alireza goes back, knight e6. And Magnus, I haven't seen him this hesitant about his moves. The knight goes back, and slowly and steadily Magnus is pushing his opponent backwards. And Alireza makes this move h5, hoping that the pawn structure is destroyed. Knight is further pushed back, and Magnus now can push the pawn to g5. But he goes g takes h5. He has 1 minute 4 seconds. Alireza has only 27 seconds. I think Magnus is clearly winning this. King d5, and he brings his knight to the center now, attacking the h4 pawn. He plays his bishop in. Knight takes pawn. Bishop attacks the knight. Knight moves in. King goes inside the position, and now takes the pawn with a check. Alireza goes King h6, if you take here, then f4 is hanging. So Magnus decides to take his time. He pushes f6, check, takes, gives up the bishop, and now suddenly the position is drawn. The knight can stop the pawn. Insane turnaround there and great defense by Alireza. But Magnus still has more time on the clock, couple of seconds more. He plays his king here. Knight check. King goes back. Knight is stopping the pawn. King f5. And this is a mistake. Now the knight moves. Magnus makes the queen, but the queen takes a lot of time, and Alireza does not even take the queen because he can win on time, and he wins it there. 5 seconds for Alireza. Magnus has a smile on his face. 5 seconds left for Alireza, and Magnus has lost on time. Unbelievable end there. Some sort of real chaos, but that's the nature of this format. If there's no increment, the players are going to flag. But what a fight by Alireza. He was lost right out of the opening, but he kept playing on, and in the end even survived. He was a minute down on the clock, but in the end managed to flag Magnus Carlsen. Unbelievable.